Thank you everyone for coming. Really appreciate it. I don't know how many of you guys were in the general session this morning. Great topic. Not a great topic for me to hear though, right before going on in front of people, thinking about, hey, is my presentation warm or is it competent or am I going up at the end of my phrases? So I'm trying to get out of my head. So to help me get out of my head, we're going to do a couple icebreakers. So what I need you to do is if you know the answer, I need you to raise your hand and Dan's going to help me find the person that's got the first hand up. You get the answer right, something cool is going to happen. So icebreaker. What is the name of Tiger Woods' new golf and lifestyle apparel and footwear brand?
Right here, right there. Yep, stand up. What's the name of it? Yep. Sunday Red?
Sunday Red, this is it right here.
All
If you
right.
haven't seen it. So
now I happen to know that the golf ferry has been around, and I'm not sure if you know this, but they leave things behind black curtains. How about a brand new QI 35 driver? Okay, hold on to that. I can ship it for you because I don't know if that'll fit over your overhead. But come find me after and I'll ship it to you.
All right, so just to set expectations, the next one is not a driver. But the next question, look for hands.
Oh, and by the way, if you raise your hand and it's wrong,
you're out.
You're out.
All right, who is the current world #1 PGA Tour player?
Back row, standing up, dark shirt. Scotty Scheffler.
Scotty Scheffler. You do not get a driver. You do get a putter.
Super stroke putter. Oh, wait. I'll come find you after. I got something I have to do with this one.
All right.
Okay.
Next one. This is the last one. Who is the current #1 LPGA? Hand in the air. I saw it with the mask.
That is correct.
That is correct.
You will also be receiving the same. So I need to find you at, I'll get your name and everything, and we'll make sure that we ship them to you courtesy of TaylorMade Golf. Congratulations, everybody.
All right. So we do take pride in the fact that our equipment gets used by the best of the best. This is just a little background on the company. I won't read it. You can take a look there. But we really do put a lot of stock in the fact that the best of the best use our equipment, and we feel like we have to follow suit from a technology perspective. And so that's why we're happy to be here talking about what we're doing with Domo. So just a little bit of background about myself. My name is David Demitz. You see I went down there, I didn't go up. David Demitz. Been with TaylorMade for 15 years. And interesting, a little side note there, I had a little detour in my career a couple years ago. I got to go over to Japan for a year to do a temporary assignment to lead the office over there. And another tie into the topic this morning when she was talking about how you listen and you nod and you like say, oh, uh-huh. They do that all over the place in Japan. So like they're always like, So when I came back, I was doing that like crazy and people were like, what is wrong with you? So I would encourage you guys, if you're gonna start doing some of those things, maybe like do it little by little so it doesn't seem so weird. So anyways, what we're gonna be talking about today is how we utilize Domo in different ways to assist with our sales reps. So just to give a little bit of background on our sales reps and what we're doing. So our sales reps, we have this, group of sales reps that represent our company into what we call our green grass account. So they don't deal with like our big accounts like the Dick's Sporting Goods and the PGA Superstores. They're the ones going to your local golf clubs, you know, the golf shops that are at your golf course and things like that. They own a defined sales area. They've got sales targets they need to hit, just like all sales organizations. But they're also really tasked with partnering with their customers to make them more successful. We really want to see them as kind of collaborators to help them grow their business. What they do is, you know, they do a lot of visits. They're out on the road and they're visiting their customers. It kind of falls into two distinct types of visits. So one's like their annual sales call, where they go in and they're like, okay, these are all our new products, and this is what you guys ordered last year. This is what we think you need this year. Requires a lot of prep on their side. But then after that, they have their, gonna go? You can click forward on that one. I don't know if I lost that. They have follow-up visits where they go and for either to replenish their stock on golf balls or gloves or something like that, or even if, you know, they sold more drivers and putters than they expected to. So that's kind of the use case that they were talking about. So we're going to use a golf metaphor to talk about how we've gone on this journey with our sales force. choosing the right club for the shot. So any of you that play golf, you know you just don't go up there and grip it and rip it unless maybe that's the way you do it. But you got to kind of manage the course and the hole that you're on. So we started many years ago with our sales force from a BI perspective, really just giving them the basics that they need. So this is kind of like your fairway finder. So maybe you don't feel like you're super confident off the tee. So you're going to use your 3-wood or maybe a 4-iron or something like that. In our concept here, this was just the real basics. This was years ago. They were using Excel. We were, okay, let's create some BI reports for you in PDF, and they were being emailed to them. This is way back in the day. So that got us on the course, but we still have a lot of ways to go. So we made the fairway. It was definitely better than what they had before. It got them the information they needed. So we're like, okay, what comes next? We need our approach shot. So this is where we kind of took the next step of, well, let's not email them to them. Let's get them on a SharePoint site. Let's get them kind of personalized so they could each go to that same thing. So again, better, but not exactly what we wanted. We're getting closer, but we found ourselves in the sand here. So how do we really make this better? And that's where Domo came in. So we need a sand save here. And that's where we brought in Domo and started building dashboards for them, different things that would allow them to get that information easier in a more visual way, getting them that stuff. So boom, great shot on the green. We're doing really well there. But we kind of have a long putt here. In order to save par, we need to sink this putt. And that putt is going to require kind of the next step, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So we built an app using App Studio and partnering with the Domo team to really make this an easier preparation for the sales reps as they go through their process. To give a little bit of background about kind of the process we went through, we wanted to make sure that we got the input from the people that really knew the business. So there's this group within the sales reps called the Masters Group that are kind of the more experienced, either in how long they've been with the company, their performance, or maybe even they're more tech savvy than some of the others. So got their feedback, got leadership on board to make sure, hey, what we're doing here, we need your guys' support to make sure that this is something that gets used. But then at the same time, we wanted to start small. We didn't want to try to do everything at once, so we wanted to start small and iterate. We also wanted to kind of put ourselves in the position of, hey, we want to support the sales reps. We don't want to be the people coming in saying, you needed to do it this way. We wanted to be their caddy. So we wanted to understand what are their needs. We did some ride-alongs, things like that, just to kind of understand how they went about their business. So that was important. And then another way that we went to the pros was, we worked with Domo to help us build this app. It's kind of like that concept of, if you want to get better at golf, yeah, you can go to the driving range, and if you're just trying to work it out, you might get better. It'll take longer. And so we probably could have built this app on our own, but we wanted to, go get some lessons and have someone really help us kind of hit the ground running and teach us what we need to know that we could then execute later on. So the result was our, what we call our TaylorMade sales call prep app, which is a terrible name, but it explains what it does. So I'm going to flip over to the live demo, but as I do that, just kind of what this was to create a curated experience for the sales reps so that they would be able to just have everything at their fingertips and not have to do a lot of the kind of collecting and collation that they had to do in their preparation. So here I am. So just for extra credit, no points or prizes here. This this whole app, we obfuscated the data to make it so you guys didn't know what we were doing. But does anyone recognize the sales rep name? Extra points. Well, in another life, I'm also a drummer. That's the drummer for Styx. So he was the guy last night that was just cranking it. One of my favorites of all time. He's amazing. So I had to give him some love on our sheet here. So he's our sales rep today. And so I want to walk you through kind of how the app works, because that'll just give you an idea a little bit about what our thought process was as far as the functionality. I know that I'm not training you on this app, and so I hope I don't go too deep on this. But what I just wanted to show is how we kind of looked at things differently from kind of a visualization and an interaction point of view to make things easier on our sales reps. So this landing page, when a sales rep drops in here, it's automatically filtered for their region using PDP, so that way they don't have all the things up here. But this is intended to be kind of like their region at a glance. So you can see where your prior year invoiced was versus your full year invoice last year, where you're at this year, so kind of how you're tracking. And then you can see all their customers here. Now there's a lot here. And so we wanted to give them opportunities to filter this down to get snapshots of what they're looking like. So for example, we integrated some data that helps to classify the customers. And this is industry data that divides customers into different kind of tiers that they call ABC doors. So for this guy, like you can click here on the AA doors and it'll filter that entire sheet to give you just those customers. And so at a glance, you can see on the left-hand side there, the sales and how they're doing year-over-year delta. So just really at a glance, are we green, are we red? How are we doing with that particular customer? Within golf, and I'm sure it's other industries as well, there's this concept of distribution. We want to make sure that we're selling a full range of products to our customers. So we use this concept here to show, hey, what kind of distribution do we have to make sure that, hey, we're not missing any categories. And what this shows here is we have specific targets that we were able to load to say, hey, what is good, you know? And so if any of these, so if we look at this one, shipyard links, and again, these are all made up golf course names, so don't go try to find them, they do not exist. But you can see here that they're a customer that for this particular sales rep, he's got a pretty good distribution with them. Looks like he's short on putters and headwear and bags. But everything else is good, everything is green. So it gives you just like at a glance, hey, what do I need to concentrate on when I go talk to that customer? But we can also take a deeper dive. And so if we want to go into that shipyard links, you can just click on that customer and it'll go to this customer details page, which again just gives you at a glance all the information that you need to know. So this reminds the sales rep, what type of customer are we dealing with here? What programs are they on? Are they a select fit customers? Just certain things like that mean something to the sales reps that let them know how they go in to have that conversation with the reps. And again, at a personalized level now, how is this particular customer doing? Full year sales, year to date sales, how are we doing? Gives them that really easy to consume number there. But then again, we have a couple of different ways that we want, or the sales management wants the sales reps to go after their customers. One is on this qual level. Have they made the qualifying orders that they need to for the year? And again, just really easy to show them, hey, let's do this visually with check marks, with reds and greens, and say, hey, they're online for everything except for irons. And then we can go down here to the irons and see where they're at for full year, all those type of things to show where should they have been, do they have the orders? So it gives them that link. But then again, this distribution, this is essentially a retelling of what was on the first page, but just at a more detailed level. So they can see here, again, from a leadership perspective, they wanted to say, okay, what gives them a green checkbox? What gives them that feel good versus the yellow versus the red? So from their perspective, red is, hey, we haven't even sold to the level that they bought last year. So that's not good. They bought 4 putters and they've only bought 3 so far this year. Yellow means, hey, we've met last year, but we haven't grown any. So it's good. So we give them that yellow. But the green is, hey, you met last year and you've exceeded it. We're growing with that customer. So you can see that right there. And again, you get down to the bottom level here that gives you just real good information of you got your target, and you can see where you're at with your prior year, current year, and it'll give you that information that you need. But then you also have one thing too, is you've got over here in your sales details. This is one thing that we learned that, hey, we want them to try to learn how to use data in a different way and be more visual, but there's a lot of them that still need the details. They need to know how they're doing on particular products, and even what are their open orders, and what are the dates associated with them, so they can, when they're talking with their customer, they can see, if they've got specific questions about, hey, where's this order? When am I going to get it? Things like that. So we have to kind of, still satisfy that need while we're trying to move them down the path on how they use these things. And so that was kind of a lesson that we learned, that you can't change it so much that it's so foreign to them that they have no kind of link to what it was before. So just a lot of other ways that you can interact here, but I won't spend too much more time on this because I want to get into what we're doing next. But just really quick, this is actually an interesting feature that we rolled in, kind of on that concept of growth plan. Here can we, plan for where they're at on drivers. So again, this particular customer, where they're at and what we want them to be. So if we're looking for a 15% lift, this is what they'd have to buy. But hey, let's move that up. Let's be more aggressive with this. It'll redraw that and tell you, hey, what's the gap now that you need to have for this year with the goal there on top. So, and they can save this off and kind of work with it. It's the work they can do at home or when they're at hotel or whatever they're doing to just kind of plan what they're going to do so that they're ready to have that conversation with the customer. And then finally, this was one thing that came late as we were iterating on this, was this customer report. So they were used to, when they went to the customer, to leaving them something. So something that would say, hey, this is what we're doing, or this is our plan, and these are your open orders, things like that. And they're like, we can't go away from that. We need to leave them with something. We're like, okay, so how can we do that in a way that's aligned with what we want to do from a technology perspective? So very simply, if you click this button, and this one won't work because this is an app that we built for this purpose, but basically you can here fill in, make sure you choose the right customer, and then you can either send it directly to the customer, or if you don't put the customer email, it'll just send it to the sales rep. And what we found is our first intent was, hey, this is after the fact. You send it to them and say, hey, thanks for visiting, and this is what it looks like here. I took a screenshot of one of them. So it's like, it was great meeting with you. Here's, it's got an attachment of a PDF of their open orders. It's got kind of the plan that we went over. But then as we worked with them and got feedback, they said, well, we're actually not doing this after the fact. What we're doing is we're sending this to ourselves first so that we can have that in our quiver when we go in there. So they're using it as kind of another part of their prep tool. So it's kind of an interesting thing that we thought was going to be used a certain way. They asked for it to be used a different way, and we kind of went with them on that. So yeah, that's basically it. This thing, one of the main benefits that we saw from this, and actually, yeah, if we can go back to the slide deck. When we got, we rolled this out last year and got some great feedback right from the beginning. These are some of the quotes that we got back from the sales rep. One, definitely saving me time. They talked about how for every customer, they'd have to go to this SharePoint site, or they'd have to go, download stuff and filter this huge PDF document, all this type of stuff. So definitely saving me time. These next two were not something we expected. Number one, we totally expected, and that was what our goal was. But this was something that we didn't expect, and it was kind of a cool thing that we found out later. They said as they went with their customers and were kind of showing them this and playing with it in front of them, their customers were like super engaged. They were like, this is so cool. Like no one else, none of the other reps for the other companies have anything like this. This is super cool. And they're like, it makes me look good. It makes me look like I've got my stuff together. It makes them believe it more in us as the technology that we bring to our products if we're doing something like that. So that was a super cool result that we weren't expecting, but definitely, I think, lends itself, when you see something that's kind of curated like that in an app format, it just kind of lends itself to that type of confidence. Also, we track the usage. So this was important. We want to say, well, who's using this? Because one thing about sales reps, so we've got a organization of, I think it's 60 plus sales reps from all over the country. And they've been in, some have been in the company for a long time, some of them are brand new. So we wanted to see like who's using this and how does that reflect with performance. And so we were able to take the usage data out of Domo, compare it to some of the sales data as far as how different reps were meeting with their goals. And we found a high correlation to the people that were using the app and the people that were already hitting their goals. So that was interesting. We did have some holdouts, and some of the holdouts were high-performing people. Like they were outliers of that analysis just because they've got so much experience and they're kind of doing it their own way. So we're just trying to figure out, okay, how do we best service everybody and get everybody on board while showing that, hey, look at the data. This proves that if you're using this as part of your prep, you're going to be doing better. So that's where we're at today. Using the App Studio app, building it out in this way, kind of in an iterative fashion, but getting it into the hands of our reps so they could use it and give us feedback. But now, let's talk about what's next. So we had to ask ourselves, so the first goal of this app was how do we save our reps time? Because they've got, one thing about our reps is, each one of them has an area and some of them have hundreds of accounts. Well, they're not going to be able to visit them all. So how do they choose which ones to visit? How do they know where their opportunities are? This is something they just kind of have to figure out on their own right now. But so how can we help them with that? How can we make our customers more successful? Are there things that they're missing out on that could definitely help them on that? So the result is something that we're calling Eagle Insights, and that's going to be our play into kind of the AI and predictive space using this app. One thing I wanted to kind of bring out on this, so this is something that's in flight right now. See that, in flight, see what I did there? It's something that we're working on that maybe next year I'll be here at Domo to talk about how that went. But trying to make a case for, okay, how do we use AI? We want to kind of do something there just to be part of the crowd, right? But something that's going to be meaningful. And we have this idea of how do we leverage the data we have to try to find opportunities for our sales reps. So it's essentially a combination of kind of your more classic, data science, predictive type of work that we then marry with the generative AI to produce the results. So this will help the sales reps prioritize their highest value calls. If they're in an area they got limited time, they can use that to decide who they're going to visit. And then one thing we want to do too is make it geographically aware. Some of our reps have really big areas. So if they're in a particular city and the thing tells them, hey, this is your highest value opportunity, but it's a 4-hour drive away. Well, what's right in your area? What could you work on? So that's going to be part of the features as well. We do have some kind of mock-ups and screenshots of things that we're working on. You might recognize the format here was something that they showed today, some of the new App Studio features of the lists. But basically, showing us that, okay, for my area that I'm in, here are my courses, and what are the opportunities, and it's color-coded there for what we think are the highest value versus lower. Gives you kind of at a glance what you might be looking at there. And then when you drill into it, you're then able to, at a golf course level, see what those opportunities are. And this is where the generative AI steps in to be able to give you a narrative about what that opportunity is. So I mean, it should be there in the data and the visualizations, but let's have it read it out. Where are we seeing those values? And so the thought being, hey, if you've got a customer that for everything else looks great, they might not even show up on your radar as having a gap, but you could show them, say, hey, look, for customers like you in this area, they're selling a ton of spider putters and you don't have any in stock. You're missing out on an opportunity. And if we present it to them that way, that gives them the opportunity to think that, hey, this is a business growth opportunity for me, the golf pro. This isn't TaylorMade just trying to make more money. Now, obviously, it helps us make more money, but we all benefit with this type of analysis. So that's kind of the goal there. And so this is kind of at a high level. This is all the different product lines that we have available but we'll be able to drill into. So this one's just showing driver and fairway. Go to the next one. So you can kind of have the analysis at different levels, and that would change the recommendation that comes out of that from a generative perspective. It would take that and say, okay, well, where's your opportunity there? With hopefully even in the future, maybe have something where we have a voice chat where if they're driving along in the car and they're about to visit, Royal Ranch Golf Club, they say, hey, Eagle Insights, what should I be talking to my customer about? And it uses this and talks back to them. So that's kind of what we've got out in the future. But this stuff is right. We're just about ready to kind of start testing this and with the goal being this summer as we go into our big selling season in the fall. That's kind of what we'll be looking at. So let's talk about, we're on the 19th hole. So we finished our round. Let's talk about what we learned throughout this entire process. So the first one there, if you remember from the illustration I had at the beginning, we had to manage that hole, right? It's like you got to know where you're trying to hit the ball, where you're trying to get to. Don't try to drive the green. Have any of you guys ever tried to drive the green or see anyone that tries to do it? It rarely goes well. I mean, the pros barely can do it, even if they think that's in their arsenal. So that's kind of our way of saying, don't try to boil the ocean, right? Try to start small with a use case that makes sense with an app that has kind of a limited purpose. This one for the sales reps. This is like targeted for as they prepare to visit their customers. This gives them what they need for that particular thing, and then we'll be building out more and more as we go from there. So just be mindful as you do those things, so it's not that you don't have that thing of trying to do too much and then it doesn't really be successful. And then this one too, leverage the pros. Like I said, if you're, even if you go into the driving range every day or once a week or whatever, you're only going to get so good because you don't know maybe what you're doing wrong. And you'll make progress, but it won't be at the level that you want. So make sure, that's that second point kind of find collaborators, people that have done it before, whether it's through networking, whether it's engaging Domo or another partner to kind of help you along in that. I know that's a luxury that not everyone has, but it's definitely something I recommend if you can get that on board. But then that top point for sure is important. As we did this, we had to make sure that we were always aligned with the sales leadership, with this masters group, the influencers that are in that organization. Because sometimes when you come at them as BI people, as IT people, they kind of think, well, what do you know about my business? What do you know about what we need? Even if you totally know what they need. So you need to kind of have that extra support so that they can see, hey, this is something I need to do. And then along those same lines, kind of create that FOMO. Make sure that as this is rolling out, celebrate the people that are using it, celebrate the successes, show those metrics that show like what we were able to do that, hey, if you're using this, you're gonna be doing a lot better, you're gonna be making your goals, so that you can kind of make that case of the people that aren't using it, they kind of feel like they're being left out. And that is a effective motivator for a lot of these people for sure. So yeah, that's basically where we arrived here with this particular app. I'm happy to take questions now, but also just Dan is here to ask if there's any questions that come up from a kind of more technical side. But yeah, it's been a great experience. It's been a cool ride, and we're excited to see where it goes from here.
Thanks, David. Amazing partnership with TaylorMade Group. Just so you know, everything that you saw today was built in App Studio. None of that's customs. That's all. You can all build that on your own. We had a lot of collaboration there, but that's all available to you today. You can build the same thing.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because from my team's perspective, I wanted to make sure it was something that we could take over for one and replicate. So we didn't want them doing all kinds of fancy stuff in the background that we were going to have to figure out what they did. So that was one of like the key driving things was, hey, let's make this simple. Let's make it something that we're then able to leverage as we go forward, for sure.
If anybody has any questions, raise your hand. We'll pass the mic to you. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, David. Thanks for the presentation. I work in our account management or sales department. I'm a manager for our team, and I'm looking forward to building potentially something like this. My question really is around the timeline that it took for you guys from the point of, ideation to obviously rolling it out to your people. How long did that process take, and were there any like beta test groups in between there? Obviously, it sounds like you got feedback.
Yeah, for sure. So when we kind of transitioned from kind of the old classical BI reports to Domo, that happened over the course of about a year. But that's where we didn't have really good adoption because we didn't have, in a way, having an app was something that we could, put out there, do a road show, say this is what we're doing going forward. So that process took, we started about February and rolled it out in like July. So it went relatively quickly, and that was one of the things too. We wanted to make sure we capitalized on the kind of the excitement behind it from a leadership perspective. They had meetings coming up in July, so we had a deadline. We're like, hey, they're all getting together. We flew around the country for their couple of meetings to just be able to get in front of them. But yeah, in that interim period, we worked with that masters group. We did some demos with them virtually, got it into their hands earlier, so we got some of that feedback before we rolled it out. So yeah, that's important to kind of do those iterations and get some of that feedback while not getting swamped with, oh, this is what I want, this is what I want. Just still kind of try to keep that scope as defined as possible.
I was really just wondering how like third-party data, if you guys have access to like Golf Now, like rounds played, or a weather app that may help predict reality to what's actually going in-store sales.
Yeah, so for this particular use case, we do use that external data that helps us to classify our doors. When we start getting to predictive, that is definitely one of our ideas of how does weather, in fact, one of the keynotes yesterday that talked about how weather, in way off can really affect your sales. We deal with that all the time, where we have, just as a company, we have our targets and our forecasts that we set up. And then when we look at it back in the year in review, we go, well, this was a longer winter than we expected. So things didn't thaw off till like April or May. And so that really affected where we go. So yeah, that'll be something we look at in the future for sure.
Hey, David.
Hey.
Name's Austin. great presentation.
Thank you.
We just launched, I deal in drugs,
Nice.
pharmaceuticals. So I like saying that, head turner.
I know, it's like, what? Okay, cool.
We just launched a very similar app, right, with your Eagle Insights. It looks like you're trying to be very prescriptive in where you send your reps, how you have them engage with your customers. How are you going about developing these prescriptive insights? So, what do you decide, hey, this is what we should focus on?
Yeah, and that's one thing that we're using the professionals. We are using a team at Domo to help us with that as well, because we do not have that skill set within my team of data scientists with that level of expertise. So that's another area where we have the idea, we think it's a good idea, and then we have help the pros to help us execute on that. And then we just expect that to be very iterative, because we have all these ideas about, will weather be a piece of it? What about tournaments that are in the area? Does that impact how sales go? Things like that. But yeah, that'll definitely be part of it. But that's where we'll look to them to really guide us on what factors we use when we create that model.
Yeah, no, I'm not in sales. But I will say one of the things that we are just out of like kind of our first step is probably a clustering of like customers. David mentioned, segmentation of customers just so that we can compare. If you go to a country club and then you go to a city muni, it's going to be a little bit different type of customer. And so it does help to at least start to do some general clustering around customer type so that you can do some comparatives. Exactly right. I saw a hand here back there.
Thank you. Great presentation. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
The thing that caught my eye is I have an app that's similar to this. At one point, you clicked on something and up came kind of a customer profile that you said would be used afterwards. They're using it to go in. What was that built in? I mean, how was that used? Because I was thinking of doing something with Report Builder once it came out, but you've got it already. So I'm trying to think of where you bought that.
Give it back to him.
that.
He'll tell you.
Yeah, I hand coded that. No, I'm just kidding. No, that's
We said we
actually
wanted it.
leveraging the Domo Campaigns app. So Domo Campaigns app is great for being able to take data from your Domo instance. It's 100% HTML, CSS customizable, so we can design it to look exactly how we want. So it actually produces something, a PDF, that then we leverage campaigns to do the email send to either the customer or back to the rep. So if you're a consumption customer and you have access to Campaigns app, well, you do have access to it, whether you know it or not. Start using it. It's a great tool.
But that is an interesting point that, we, when I saw that today, I was like, oh, we could have used that, but it wasn't existent back then, so. Any other questions? Right up here.
Thanks for the presentation. I think at the start of your presentation, you mentioned it's for the green grass, the sort of smaller accounts. If you can share, seems like something like this would be helpful to the large national accounts like Dick's Sporting Goods. Is their solution for the sales reps or the national accounts that's supporting Dick's more manual or more tech and more sort of data than what we saw for the smaller accounts?
Well, that's a good question. We started with the green grass because it is a little bit more, quantifiable, and you can see big results in some of these little things. To be honest, I don't know what the strategic accounts use on that. I do think it is a little bit more manual right now, but it is a lot more driven by the relationships they have with those customers. So we could recommend all they want, and they're going to say, no, this is what I'm doing, that type of thing. But the more that we can go in with data to show them certain things, I think that'll be useful. So I could see that being something we evolve into for sure. But yeah, they're not using that at this point.
One more? Time for one more?
Yeah, we're
Yeah?
pretty good. I know this is the last one before
last one?
the closing social. So I'm happy that everyone showed up. I was wondering,
Yeah.
people be tired by now, but thank
Can you imagine if we would have told them we were giving away clubs? It would have been a line out the door. That's why we didn't do it.
Yeah.
That's why we didn't do it. Anybody else have one more? Anything else that they want? Oh, right here.
Yeah, you touched a little bit on getting adoption, and I appreciated those comments, but we have a problem of education. So we have similar apps, right, where there's drill-ins, buttons, et cetera. And for some reason, our stakeholders, when they log in there, seem to forget what a button is and how it works and all those types of things, and they're scared to click around. So I'm curious how your training and collaboration with your adoption worked out.
Yeah, we had kind of a multi-prong approach there because, and especially with these guys, we love them, but some of them are more or less technical than others. I remember when I first joined, just kind of an aside here, and this was 15 years ago, but when I joined, we were having a hard time getting to use email, and we had to go in and rip out the fax machines from their homes and stuff like that. So, they get into their processes that they know and they're comfortable with, and that's tough. So it really is about, like I said, multiple things. We wanted to make sure, that's why getting that buy-in from leadership and getting that support. So we're at their sales meetings and we're there on stage, and their manager and their directors are right next to us saying, this is amazing, this is what we're going to use. That has a lot of weight. So they go, okay, cool. We did have, in those sessions, we did have training. We want you to get on it and, show us how you would do this and that. So we wanted to make sure they had hands-on. And then we do have kind of the sales organization has their own support functions that can help them. But we always tell them we're available. We've done follow-up calls. We've done just like online trainings with teams now and things like that. It's easy to do them and record them for people that aren't able to attend. So you just kind of have to keep going at it. And I think, but that main thing is create the desire to use it, because then that's going to get the repeat usage. That's going to just drill in those skills that they get for sure.
One thing that I could probably add, I actually just did this recently for another customer. Inside of App Studio, the pagination component, we actually added a page called video training, and we actually just uploaded a series of vignettes of training. So they just walk through we just walk through how to use it. And so if there's any questions, they just point them into the app itself, watch training video 6. And it does a good job.
Idea. So
you can do some stuff that way.
Why didn't you tell us about that? We should have done that.
No, coming to an app near you.
Yeah.
I hate to say this. We're my 2 putters, people. One, other putter person. You know how I'm calling you putter person? Where's...
He was in the back, right?
Well, wait, no, we had, where's driver guy? Driver guy there. Okay, I need to take a picture of your badge before we leave. Okay, we got both our putters. I need a driver guy. Okay. Sorry, is that okay? I called you driver guy? All right. Just so you know, just go back to work and just start calling me driver guy, and just carry your club around for work. You'll be a hero.
Well, we are out of time, so appreciate you guys coming and the great questions, the great engagement. Go out there and build something.